Welcome back to The Explainer. So, look, today we aren't just going to be memorizing maps or, staring at static globes. Instead, we're jumping right into a dynamic, centuries-old tug of war. We're going to explore the beating heart of human geography. It's a field that is wildly integrative, deeply empirical, and super practical. It literally looks at every single event on the Earth, over space and time. But honestly, more than that, it's the story of us and our planet.
And that brings us to the ultimate question. Are we controlled by nature, or do we control it? This single, profound question, it frames everything we're going to talk about today. It is the central tension of human geography. I mean, throughout human history, we have constantly been negotiating our relationship with the environment around us, really trying to figure out who exactly is in the driver's seat.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with defining human geography, move on to the man versus nature tug of war, look at the middle path, explore some schools of thought, walk through the corridors of time, and wrap up with the multidisciplinary universe. Section 1. Defining human geography, the synthetic study. So when we talk about human geography, we're actually looking at a very specific definition. It's the synthetic study of the relationship between human societies and the Earth's surface. It's not just about the mountains, right? And it's not just about the people. It's that interrelationship between man and his environment. It looks at how we shape the Earth, and in turn, how the Earth completely shapes us. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly our world splits into two distinct halves here. On one side, you've got the physical environment provided by nature, stuff like land, water, soil, climate, vegetation, and fauna. But on the flip side, we have the socio-cultural environment, which we actively create. That includes our transport systems, our communication networks, our settlements, even our crops. Geography sits right on that boundary line, studying how the physical basically becomes the cultural. In fact, the connection between humans and the Earth is so incredibly deep that geographers literally map human anatomical metaphors right onto the planet. They analyze the Earth as if it were a living, structural body. It's this beautifully poetic way to look at a scientific field, and it really proves that we truly see our environment as an extension of ourselves. Which brings us to Section 2, the tug of war, nature versus man. Because let's face it, when humans and the Earth interact, there's inevitably a struggle for dominance. For a long time, geographers were actually split into two wildly different camps. First, you've got environmental determinism. This is the idea that nature dictates everything. It's the story of primitive society interacting with nature under strict shackles, where the environment completely determines human behavior. But then, as we evolved, we moved toward possibilism. This one is all about human freedom. Instead of being trapped by necessity, humans began creating cultural landscapes. We shifted from a state of absolute necessity right into a state of endless possibilities, really taming the landscape around us. And this brilliantly illustrates the bridge that took us from determinism to possibilism: technology. Technology totally indicates the level of cultural development of a society. But notice something amazing here. We didn't conquer nature by ignoring it, we conquered it by understanding it. By understanding the natural laws of friction and heat, we created fire. By understanding the nature of DNA, we learned to eradicate diseases. By understanding the laws of thermodynamics, we built fast planes. Knowledge about nature is exactly what allows us to develop technology. And it's that technology that finally loosens the shackles of the environment. Moving on to Section 3, the middle path, Neo-determinism. But what if both extremes, like total environmental control or total human freedom, are actually flawed? Well, a geographer named Griffith Taylor developed an incredible concept called stop-and-go determinism, also known as neo-determinism. It's essentially the perfect middle path. Taylor argued that neither extreme is true. There's no situation of absolute environmental necessity where we're totally helpless, but there's also no condition of absolute human freedom where we can just do whatever we want without consequences from nature. It's like a constant stop-and-go traffic light between us and the Earth. So the crucial point is that this neo-determinism really aims for balance. We want development, yes, for sure, but we absolutely have to maintain a delicate balance with nature. And that brings us to the ultimate goal of the middle path: sustainable development. We can move forward and build, but only if we listen to the environment and ensure we aren't destroying the very foundation we stand on. Section 4. Schools of human thought. As society grew more complex, so did the way we studied it. By the 1970s, new sociopolitical realities gave rise to some very distinct schools of thought. First up, we have the welfare school. They look at geography purely through the lens of social well-being, asking who has access to housing, health, and education across different spaces. Then we've got the radical school, which takes a much harder look at structural issues, focusing in on the root causes of poverty, deprivation, and social inequality. And finally, the behavioral school. They shifted the focus inward, giving massive importance to lived experience and how different social categories actually perceive the space around them.
That takes us to Section 5, Through Corridors of Time.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Because to truly understand how we got these diverse schools of thought, we need to trace our steps. In the colonial era, geography was heavily driven by exploration, imperialism, and regional analysis. But by the 1930s, the focus really narrowed to areal differentiation, basically finding what made specific regions unique. Fast forward to the 1950s and 60s, and the application of technology turned geography into a study of spatial organization. Then, as we just discussed, the 1970s brought the emergence of the humanistic and radical schools. Finally, by the 1990s, we hit postmodernism, which is all about applying universal laws to understand global geography. And our final section, Section 6, a multidisciplinary universe. You see, human geography doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It is literally the connective tissue of academia. It synthesizes with almost every field you can imagine. When it meets sociology, you get social geography. Combine it with psephology or epidemiology or economics, and you unlock entirely new fields like electoral, medical, or economic geography. It overlaps with history for historical geography and touches urban planning for urban geography. Basically, every single aspect of human life has a geographical component. It's a massive interconnected universe. Ultimately, this brings us to one deeply personal question inspired by the behavioral school. How does your own lived experience shape the geographic space around you? Because this tug of war isn't just in the history books, right? It is happening every single day in your own neighborhood, your city, and your life. Think about how you perceive the space around you and how you, in turn, are shaping it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring and keep questioning the world around you.